Today I am going to be painting in Tayasui sketches. Hi everyone, Steve Elliott here. Today I'm working in this new app. It's a tryout really. It's not a review or anything like that. I'm just going to have a little mess around with it. I've already had a mess around with it actually, but I've not done a drawing yet. So this is the first one. There are some cool tools in this, I have to say, and but it took me a little while to get my head around it. This dipping pen is a great brush. I really love the way you get these sort of splodges of ink all over your paper, and I fell in love with it straight away. So although I intended to do a sketch I was going to try and use all of the tools, I didn't actually achieve that. I kind of stuck with this one. It took me a long while to work out how you could change the thickness of a brush or a pencil, and consequently initially I felt the pens I was using was a little bit thick, and I was surprised at that, and I just couldn't see any way to change the thickness of the line. I did in the end, so I will talk about that later on. But initially the drawing is done with the default settings of all of the tools. A few quirky things about this. It does an auto save to your photos folder every 3 minutes as a default. You can switch it off in the settings, so that's cool. So that did sort of make me wonder at first when it started to do this save thing, and it was sort of saving stages of the drawing. I suppose it'd be quite cool if you wanted to see bits of your drawing as you was going along and it was progressing, but it's not a feature that I would want to be using. Other things about it is this is the free version, so the 3 tools that are outlined at the bottom of the list, they're not available. As soon as you click on them, it says upgrade to the Pro version. The Pro version is inexpensive. It's £4.99 UK pounds, so it's not a massively expensive app, and you've only got one layer. As soon as you try and add a layer, it says you need to upgrade. But I was just testing this for sketching rather than doing big paintings. When I come to export the drawing, basically I think it just does a screen dump, so it's not the resolution isn't massive. I don't think it put it into screen dumps, and it put it into photos, into an album. So I wasn't really sure. I've not really examined the actual size of the file, but I don't think you would get a hugely high res file with this. So as you can see, I'm just sketching out a tree and doing a little bit of cross hatching there, and at this point I've used 2 brushes. I've used this dipping pen, which I really like. I have to say, I've not found a pen like that in any other app. Then again, I haven't messed around with brushes a massive amount, so I'm sure there probably are brushes like that. And then the lining pen, which I did feel, I say, is a little bit thick. So this drawing is definitely done in 2 stages, because I completed it with the default settings, and I thought I'd got a finished sketch which was kind of alright, and then I thought I totally stumbled on the enlarging function, or changing the size of the brush and the opacity as well, by the way. I discovered it by accident, and I'll talk about that when I actually do start to change the sizes. So I'm working, so the drawing that I'm doing is definitely affected by the size of the nib or brush that I'm working with, whereas it would have probably come out much different if I'd have actually discovered that I could change the size earlier on, because I'm sort of putting in really broad strokes for shading. I sort of just put in these rough trees, put in a few shadows, and then I tried this sort of, I guess it's a lining brush with a lining pen with a brush tip, and that took me a while to get my head around that, and I went back to using the marker pen, and I thought, oh, this marker pen's all right, it's doing the job, but it didn't. I was thinking a marker pen would probably be, you'd want it thicker lines than that, so that felt odd, and it was because I just didn't know how to change the size, and then when I did discover it, it took me a while to actually work out what I was doing to get the interface up to show the brushes. So that it doesn't seem very intuitive. It was a bit. It was a lucky guess that I got to work it out. But once I did, it became a much better app, and the brush that I'm using now to put in these little thin lines, I really got to grips with that, and really enjoyed working with that. So it compares with Concepts. I prefer the watercolour brush in Concepts to this one because the colours blend together. Two different colours actually seem to merge, like the inks or the paints flowing together, where with this it doesn't. It's more like doing a glaze where you put a colour on and then you put another colour on the top of it and that colour glows through. So I was happy with this is the watercolour brush going on now, and you can see if you overlay it, if you keep brushing onto it, it adds more colour and more colour. So that was cool. I like that. I was able to add colours to the colour palette, which was nice. But then when I wanted to do the fine detail, I couldn't change or I didn't know how to do the brush. So especially on the branches, it all gets a bit iffy. Sort of these really thick lines of colour, just sort of loosely filling in these branches. But me being me and liking this sort of haphazard approach to sketching, I did like the effect, and I'm thinking, well, it's not putting me off at this stage, but it does seem weird that I can't make the brush any smaller. And it's not difficult to do, actually, once you've worked out how to do that. So I was trying different brushes here to see if I could get a thinner line to put the colour on, but it was just too thick. But now I could use the other tools because I can change the opacity and get a sort of similar effect to the watercolour. You choose the colours, by the way, there's a little square bottom right corner that you can click on, and if you hold the pen to the screen while you're colouring in, you can get a nice flat wash. But as soon as you take the pencil off the screen, then it overlays it and you get a build-up of colour. So you need to do it all in one go if you want a flat wash. But I thought that was nice. I like that effect. Sort of just put in sort of a pink glow behind the whole thing. So that was the first drawing finished, and I'm thinking at this point, it's okay, I'm liking the app. And then I discovered purely by chance that you can change the size, and you do it by clicking on the tip of the brush. You see it's sort of highlighted red, and then you get a sliding scale, and here we go. So I start to do some more hatching because I was able to make the pen nib a lot smaller. So as I say, you click on the tip of the nib. I think the paper size, you have to be zoomed in. You can't be zoomed out, otherwise the menu doesn't show. But the sliders, they're really faint and they're not very big. They're to the right hand side of the screen, and I really struggled to see them even when I knew they were there. And you actually have to click on the sliding bar and slide that up and down to actually change the size. So at this point, I have changed the size. You can see I've got a much finer line, which was great. And then I wanted to change the size of the brush and that dipping pen. And I couldn't work out how I'd done it. So it took me a while to get my head around that. So the interface isn't the most user-friendly I've ever used, but the tools are really nice, and it feels very responsive. And here we go. I'm sort of dipping on it, but then the menu appears. There it is, and I slide up and down to change the thickness. So I've reduced the size of the dipping pen to do some fine lines with that. Try that out. And I etch pretty much the whole of the tree, putting in bits of detail. Now I'm thinking, this is a different app. Now I can change the size of the brushes, and I'm really starting to like it. I still think Paper by 53 is my favourite, but I've only done one drawing in this. I don't want to sort of be biased or anything like that. I'm sort of committed to Paper by 53 because I'm actually building up a sketchbook, and that's why I like that app, because you can sort of have a collection of drawings in a little book, where this, I don't think it's like that. It's much more like Procreate, where you just have a thumbnail of each of your sketches. But it is very realistic looking. I've not tried the pencil. It felt it didn't seem very natural when I was using the pencil, but I'll probably have another go with that. And you can see I'm putting in these really fine little lines, just sort of giving the impression of the bark. So I'm really liking where this tree is going now, because I've been able to put a lot more shadow in it with fine hatching, but leave the colour. So I'm liking that. That's how I would work with proper pen and ink. I suppose it felt a little bit like using the glass dipping pen I've got. The way the ink sort of blotches, and it does have sort of a life of its own. But now I'm using the lining pen again. It is a very nice app, and for the free version, you can't grumble, can you, really, that you can do something as nice and as detailed as this on something for free. So for ideas and things, I think it's a great little app. I'm not so sure you could do a finished piece of artwork with it, but I really like what I did here. So I'm just going to sort of continue hatching this in, and this is, by the way, speeded up. I think it's 3 times. I didn't want to speed it up too much. I wanted you actually to be able to see the drawing process. And also, it has got its own built-in recorder, and you can enable the microphone as well. So that was really cool, because I used the built-in recorder for this rather than the OSI recorder, which sometimes can be a bit iffy and doesn't record. You think it's working and it's not. But this, I really like the recording tool built into this. I did use that. One thing that was really quirky, I couldn't get it to split screen, so I could put a photo next to the drawing, which was a bit dodgy. I'm used to now working with a photo, if I'm using source material, next to what I'm drawing on the split screen, but I just could not get it to work as a split screen. If anybody out there has used this app and knows different, if you could put a comment down and let me know what I'm doing wrong there, or if you can actually split the screen? I'd like to know the answer to that one. Here I'm using, or I was using, that brush pen again, and now I change the size of the watercolour brush. Here we go, and I can be much more refined and picking out these branches now. So I'm much happier, and I can leave some highlights on the branches, or the trunk I should say, and fill that in. So this is sort of a cartoony style drawing really, but I did enjoy it. It's something different to what I normally do. As you know, I'm sort of much more into the doing, I suppose, impressionistic landscapes and portraits and things, not so much pen work like this, but I did enjoy it as an exercise and for trying out the app. I would recommend you give it a go. I think it's a really nice solid app. Didn't crash on me or anything. So there is my finished drawing. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. It is always appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I have lots of videos all about digital painting, and I would love to be sharing those with you. So hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye.